embassy, and I read a cable, and I said, he's gay. I'm 100% sure he's gay.
How did you know he was gay?
Oh, it was a vibe.
Okay. Does that kind of still happen a lot in the CIA where you have to take one for the team?
Yes. And my boss says, okay, here's what I want you to do. I want you to fuck her. Hi, how are you?
Okay.
Oh, we've never met. I'm John. So nice to meet you. Let me take you to lunch. He had access to information that we really needed. So they told me to accidentally bump into him. So I surveilled him for a week. And he was single. And on Saturday morning, he went to a coffee shop. So I go into the coffee shop and I'm looking at him and he's looking at me and I said, I know you. Ministry of Foreign Affairs? He said, yes. Do I know you? I said, I am John from the American Embassy. Oh, nice to see you. I said, hey, good to see you too. You live in the area? Yes, I do. I said, oh, so do I. I didn't. I lived like across town. Oh, fancy meeting you here at this coffee shop. I come here all the time. Do you? Yeah, he says, I come here all the time. Why don't you have a seat, he says. So I sit down. At the end of the conversation, I go back to the embassy and I read a cable and I said, he's gay. I'm 100% sure he's gay. So then we started this conversation, headquarters and I, how can we use that to our benefit?
Did he have a wife?
No.
He was single.
Which was unusual at his age.
How did you know he was gay?
Oh, it was a vibe.
Okay.
So, headquarters says, we want you to pretend that you're gay. I said, oh, come on, you guys. No, we really need the information. You got to pretend that you're gay. I said, okay, I'll do it. I'll do it for Uncle Sam. So, I call him and I said, hey, I have 2 tickets to this show and I was hoping maybe you'd be free. Maybe we'll grab some sushi afterwards. He said, yeah, I'd love to. So we go to the show. He thoroughly enjoyed it. And we go for sushi afterwards. And then we go out again. And he says, why don't you go over to my place some night and I'll make dinner. I said, great. So I go over to his place. He made a lovely dinner. And then I thought, well, I have to invite him to my place. So I told my wife, you're going to have to get out. So she left. I made dinner. I removed all the pictures of us together. And we had just gotten married. So we had our wedding picture up and everything. At the dinner, he leaned in to kiss me. And I instinctively backed off. And he said, oh my God, I'm sorry. I thought you're gay. And I said, oh no, I am gay. I'm not into hairy guys. And he's like, oh, okay. I said, I'm sorry. I think you're great, but I'm not feeling it.
You didn't kiss him?
No. So we remained friends. And in the end, he gave me the information because we were friends. And then he opened up. He's like, I can't tell anybody I'm gay. They suspect I am. And they passed me over for promotion. And my boss asked me, is there something in your personal life that you're not telling me? He knows I'm gay. I said, listen, your culture's backwards. Don't tell them you're gay. Just say that you've just never met the right woman. And inshallah, the right woman is coming, in your life at some point. And I actually Googled him a couple of years ago and he did become an ambassador finally.
And he's still working in that country now?
Mm-hmm.
Does that kind of still happen a lot in the CIA where you have to take one for the team?
Yes.
Have you ever taken one for the team?
No.
I'm not sure you're telling the truth.
Well, it came close.
When did it come close?
So I was overseas. I was a brand new operations officer. And there was a woman in this foreign intelligence service who was the ugliest woman I've ever seen in my life. Like, you want to avert your eyes. Like, she came off the side of Notre Dame. She was a stone gargoyle with a giant mole right here with a giant hair coming out of it. That kind of ugly. So I took her to lunch, and she was very nice. And then I thought, I did something kind of gutsy by CIA standards, because it was early on in our relationship. I invited her to go to lunch on a Saturday. Now, as a rule, the people in this country were not allowed to socialize with us privately. It had to be like their whole office, or several of them together. So I asked her just to meet me privately for lunch on Saturday. Don't tell anybody.
So she was someone from the Middle East?
Yes. And she agreed. And I was like, oh my God. She said yes. And I ran back to the office. I was like, she said yes to a lunch on Saturday alone. And my boss says, okay, here's what I want you to do. I want you to fuck her. And I said, what? I said, have you ever seen her? And he said, I know, but we're the good guys and you're going to have to take one for the team. And I go, oh my God. I go, okay, I'll do it. And he says, no, you're not going to fuck her. We don't do that. I said, well, I don't know. I just started this. I've never been an operations guy before. How am I supposed to know? He said, come on. He said, just develop her like a normal person. You don't have to fuck her. I said, oh my God, you almost gave me a heart attack.
But they might not be mad if you did.
So long as I reported it and I got the recruitment out of it.
It wasn't illegal to, sleep with assets.
Yeah, you're not supposed to sleep with assets. It has happened to a couple people I know, and they end up being pulled back to the United States. You have to sit in the penalty box if you do that. You're not supposed to do that. But yeah, it happens sometimes.
So sextortion isn't a real thing?
It can be. We don't... When I first got hired, one of the old timers told me the story about an Ayatollah that they were trying to recruit, and they set this Ayatollah up with a prostitute, and he had sex with this prostitute in a room where they had cameras everywhere. And so they bumped him afterwards. They bumped into him and said, hey, we have all these pictures, and they laid out the pictures of him, butt naked with this prostitute. And he said, yeah, give me that one an 8x10, give me 2 5x7s of that one, how about some wallet size for this? He's like, get out of here. And he said, after that, we just stopped doing that. It doesn't work. When you recruit somebody, you really do need the relationship to be based on mutual trust.
Not coercion or pressure or
threatening
threats.
Somebody, it's not going to result in a productive relationship. The Russians do it, the Israelis do it, but most intelligence services around the world don't.
Because you've been in this world, what is it that you know about the nature of the reality that we all live in that the average person really has no idea about? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because, going back to what I said earlier, 3 years ago before I started doing all this podcast stuff and started interviewing people that had been involved in spy work and CIA and all this, I was kind of like naive to the way that the world worked. I thought if I have a password on my device is secure. And I thought that,
right?
All these kind of just simple things, but what is it that you know about the nature of reality that most people don't?
Well, I guess it's a couple of things. John Kennedy called the CIA the best and the brightest. And we're not. We're just average people. And we're not as smart as we think we are. We're not as worldly as we think we are. We've pretty much missed every major global development since 1947, from the rise of the Berlin Wall to the fall of the Berlin Wall to the fall of the Soviet Union to the Suez Crisis and the Iran hostage crisis and 9/11 and everything else. We missed it. We're really good at day-to-day, updates for the president. We're really good at recruiting minor hangers-on around terrorist groups, but the big picture items, we're just not good at it, number one. Number two, until 9/11, it was against the law, like in stone, to spy on Americans. And now, billions of dollars are spent spying on Americans, whether it's NSA or CIA or FBI or intelligence community contractors. Nothing is secret. Nothing. And to make matters worse, let's say maybe you did do something that law enforcement might be interested in. They don't need a warrant anymore. They don't need to go to a judge and say, well, we have reason to believe, blah, blah, blah. All they have to do is just buy your metadata, because it's for sale. Just go to the carrier. Just buy it. They don't need a judge's order to do that. It's all out there. We've made ourselves vulnerable. All of our lives are out there, whether it's on Facebook or X or Insta or whatever. If they really want to get you, they're going to get you, which reminds me of a book written by Dr. Harvey Silverglate. He's a professor of law at Harvard, and it's called 3 Felonies a Day. And he argues in this book that we are so over-criminalized, so over-regulated in this country that the average American, on the average day, going about his or her normal business, commits 3 felonies. Every day. You may not mean to, but you do, every day. So, if they decide they want you, they don't like your politics, they can get your metadata, they can go through that metadata, find crimes that they can charge you with, and ruin your life. And there's nothing you can do to protect yourself.
To some extent, they did that to you.
Yeah, they did. They did that to me.
Because you spoke out about a torture program that was happening in the CIA.
Yeah, John Brennan wrote a letter to Eric Holder and said, charge him with espionage. And Holder wrote back. Eric Holder was the Attorney General. Holder wrote